Hey guys, Mrs. Saller here. Again, I gotta apologize for being absent, especially my first hour class today. I'm having a medical procedure done, but I should be back tomorrow, Wednesday, to get you guys a review for your quiz on Thursday. But I just want to make sure that everybody that is in my pre-calculus classes today is getting a hang on doing these problems with the ellipses. I'm actually going to skip over the parametric equation stuff that you should be getting from the notes. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward. If you have questions on this, drop by Wednesday morning. I'd be happy to help you figure out the pattern that's happening with that parametric stuff. But the formula should be down at the bottom of your completed notes that you got from the sub. But let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these where you have to write an equation, because it's kind of hard to tell from the notes exactly where I'm getting these numbers from. So let's just take a look at a few of these where you have to write the equation of the ellipse. So this first one says we have focal points at positive 3, 0, and negative 3, 0. And this graph paper is mainly for your aid, guys, to help you figure out what's going on here. And endpoints to the major axis are at 5, 0, and negative 5, 0. So you know you're going to have an ellipse that's going to look something like horizontally long ellipse. So something like that is what's going to end up happening there. Now I can already tell where the center is going to be, because the only way this could work is when you have a 0, 0 as your center. So I can tell the center is at the point 0, 0. And so when I start to write my equation, I have fraction plus fraction equals 1. I know I'm going to have an x squared and a y squared, because there's no h and k value. I also see that my a value is 5, because we went right 5 and left 5, and that will be attached to the x's. So do a squared, which is 25, that'll be attached to the x's. But I'm missing the b. Okay, I need that b value to figure out what y is. So you're going to use the c value, which is the focal distance 3, to find b. And our big formula from yesterday was c squared is a squared minus b squared. So we're going to plug into that and solve for b. So you get c squared, which is 9, equals a squared, which is 25, minus b squared. And so doing a little solving here, you get b squared is equal to 16. So b is equal to 4. And really, once you get to b squared is 16, that's all you need, because we need b squared to plug in here. So it's just going to be 4 squared, which is 16, and you got your equation of the ellipse. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at the next one together. So in part B here, since we have focal points at 0, 4, and 0, negative 4, so there's our focal points. And the endpoints of the major axis are at 0, 7, and 0, negative 7. So again, this is going to be an ellipse, and this time it's going to be vertically long ellipse. Alright, so again, just like the last one, the center is going to be at 0, 0. Just kind of looking at the picture, I can tell that's where it's going to have to be. So we're going to have x squared plus y squared in a fraction equals 1. Now, again, I know what the a value is, because the major axis ends at 7. But this time, it's attached to the y's. We're going up 7 and down 7. So we'll take a squared, which is 49. That's attached to the y's this time. And just like the last one, we know what c is. C is 4. We need to figure out what b is to finish the equation. So c squared is 16 equals a squared is 49 minus b squared, and we'll solve for b. So you get b squared equals 33. So b equals root 33, in case you want to know. And so we need b squared, so take b squared, which is 33, and that'll go into the x's. And again, the reason why the 49 is under the y is because you're going up 7, down 7 for the major axis, and that needs to be under the y's. Alright, now let's skip ahead a little bit. And let's take a look at one that doesn't end up with a center at 0, 0. So let's skip ahead to e. And e says the endpoints of one axis are at negative 2, negative 3, and negative 2, 7. So I can already tell the center is not going to be at 0, 0 this time. And then there's another one at negative 4, 2, and another one at 0, 2. And so your ellipse is going to look something like this. And so we can see the center is not going to be at 0, 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to this is kind of a trick you can use. You can crisscross your axes, and where the axes meet up, that's where your center is going to be. So negative 2, 2. Another little trick is you look for what's in common between these points. So notice we have negative 2 and negative 2 and 2 and 2. So that's another way you can tell where the center is. Alright, so in our case we found it. Negative 2, 2 is our center. So we're going to have x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared, and both in fractions equals 1. And now we just have to find our a and b. Now we can just tell this from the graph. Our a value, we went up 5, down 5. So our a value is 5. And that's attached to the y's. So a squared, 25, will be attached to the y's. Our b value is, we went right 2, left 2, so 2, and again 2 squared is 4, and that's attached to the x's because we're going right and left 2. And we just came up with the answer for that one. Okay, so far it's just a lot of, knowledge of the standard form and feeling very comfortable finding these things. Now we're going to skip over the parametric stuff again, and if you're really having trouble with this, drop by. But let's go to the back page where we have to complete the square to get back into standard form. And this might have been really confusing in the notes. You're going to start out the same way you normally do when you're completing the square. So again, the whole point is some knucklehead came in, multiplied out that standard form, got rid of the fractions, and got this in general form. But again, I can tell it's an ellipse because these numbers are different. Okay, this is no longer circle land, this is ellipse land. But you start out the same way you do when you're at the circle. You're going to get the x's together, and you're going to get the y's together, and move the number to the other side to subtract the 42. So I'm just doing a little cleanup. I'm getting the x's together, the y's together, subtracting the number to the other side. Now, unfortunately, we can't use complete the square until we get these x squareds by themselves and the y squareds by themselves. There cannot be stuff attached to them. Now when we did circles, we just divided those numbers out. Unfortunately, we can't do that here. So I go through and divide by 3. So if I go through and divide by 3, I'm going to have a problem because, now I have a 5/3 in front of y squared, and then what am I supposed to do? So you really have a problem if you try to use the old-fashioned technique for circles to actually do this one. So what we're going to have to do instead in a problem like this is we're going to have to factor first. So factor out the 3 from those two, and you get x squared minus 4x. I'm going to leave a little space because we're going to complete the square here in a second. And then factor out the common 5 in these. So basically factor out that common factor. Okay, so this is what I have when I factor out the 5. I got y squared plus 6y left. When I factor out the 3, I have x squared minus 4x left. Now we're going to do complete the square on this right here. Okay, so let's do complete the square. It's that same two-step technique that we talked about. So take the negative 4 divided by 2, you get negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Now we're going to add that on here, but this is where you have to be careful. You're not really adding on 4. You're adding on 4 times 3. So what we really need to add on to the other side is we need to add on 3 times 4. We need to add on 12 to the other side. And there's the cravat. Okay, you have to be really careful that you notice that this is not just 4 we're adding on. We're adding 4 times that 3 out front from the factoring. Now do the same thing with the y's. We have a 6 in front of the y, so we'll take 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. That's what we're adding on here. But we're not just adding on 9, we're adding on 9 times 5. So we're really adding on 45, so make sure they add that on to keep the equation balanced the other side. And you're usually going to notice if you do something wrong, because if you end up with a negative over here, that's usually a bad sign. You should always have a positive number over here. If you have a negative, that probably means you forgot to multiply by that number out front. Alright, so now we're going to factor and add like terms. So this will be 3 times, this factors into x minus 2, so x minus 2 quantity squared. Plus this guy will factor into 5 times y plus 3, so y plus 3 quantity squared, equals, add these up, you get 3 plus 12 is 15. Now, we're not there yet, because ellipses have to be equal to 1 over here, so the next step is divide through by 15, so it's in our standard form. And we have our equals 1 over here. Now reduce these, you get x minus 2 quantity squared over 5, plus this will divide into 3, so y plus 3 squared all over 3. And you got your equation now in standard form. So whereas this I couldn't tell how to graph it, this I could actually graph from this point. Let's do one more together. So again, we have an ellipse in the next one. Again, I can tell because these numbers are different. It's not a circle, it's an ellipse. And the first thing I'm going to do is my cleanup step. So let's get the x's together, get the y's together, subtract the 124 over. Now the y squared's fine, we don't have to worry about that. We do have to do a little factoring on this guy, so factor out the 4. You get x squared minus 8x. We'll leave a little space because we have to add stuff. Plus, this guy we got the y squared plus 16y. Leave a little space because we'll do our complete the square on that guy as well. So let's start with this one. We have negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to add on 16 in here. But we're not adding on 16, we're really adding on 16 times 4. So we're really adding on 64. To keep the equation balanced. Plus, now do the same thing with the y's. So take the 16 divided by 2, you get 8. 8 squared is 64. So add 64 here, and then make sure you add a 64 to the other side to keep that nice and balanced. So now the right-hand side turns into 128, so 4. The left-hand side, we're going to factor. So we have 4 times x minus 4, so x minus 4 quantity squared. Plus, now this guy will be y plus 8, so y plus 8 quantity squared. And now go through and divide by 4, because we have to get this equal to 1 to be in common, our standard form. and then reduce this. This becomes x minus 4 quantity squared over 1. I'm actually going to put the over 1. I know some of you are going to think that's silly, but if someone came in and wanted to graph this, then they would see that, oh, our b squared value is 1. Okay, so b is equal to 1. If you lose that, some people might lose where the b came from. And then we have y plus 8 quantity squared all over 4 equals 1, and you've now completely got this back into our nice standard form. So someone could look at this, say, oh, the center's at 4, negative 8, the a value is 2, it's going to be attached to the y's, the b value is 1, they could graph it, they could find the focal points, they can do anything they want. Alright, so hopefully this helps you guys get through the notes today, and hopefully you're using this video. Please tell people in class to go to my website and check out the video, because I think you guys will find this rather helpful to get through today's homework, and also get yourself ready for that quiz on Thursday. I unfortunately can't move that quiz, guys, because, well, first of all, I'll be here to review with you guys on Wednesday, so that should help. But also, we're really tight here to finish up between this chapter and then the next chapter before the final, so we really can't move too much around. So please drop by if you guys have any questions, and rewatch this video if you still have questions, and I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you guys Wednesday.